The Ugly Ducklings Learn to Talk with Their Mother by Leakim. Episode 4. Once upon a time, in a quiet farmyard near the edge of a peaceful pond, lived a mother duck with her 7 ducklings. These ducklings were not the yellow, fluffy kind most animals expected to see. Their feathers were grayish, their beaks were oddly shaped, and their feet always seemed too big. Because of this, everyone in the barnyard whispered behind their backs and often called them the Ugly Ducklings. But Mother Duck never saw them that way. She saw love, strength, and uniqueness in each of her babies. Every morning she led them gently to the pond and whispered softly, "You are loved. You are special. You are mine." Still, the ducklings often felt sad. They kept their heads low, avoided eye contact with other animals, and even grew quiet around their own mother. Although they were together every day, a silence grew between them. One day, after an afternoon swim, the ducklings gathered under the willow tree. Mother Duck noticed their wings drooping, their beaks turned downward, and not a single cheerful quack. She walked over and sat down quietly. "My little ones," she said softly, "why is your sunshine hidden today?" The ducklings looked at each other. They didn't know how to begin. After a long pause, the smallest duckling, Pip, spoke. "Mama," he said, "are we really ugly?" Mother Duck's eyes widened with surprise. "Why would you ask that, my darling?" "Because the other animals say it. And sometimes," Pip whispered, "we feel like it might be true." One by one, the ducklings began to speak. "We feel different. We don't fit in. We're scared to talk to others. They laugh at us. We pretend we're okay, but we're not." Tears welled in Mother Duck's eyes. She had known her ducklings were struggling, but she had not realized how much sadness they carried inside. She leaned in close, wrapping her wings around them like a warm, feathery blanket. "My precious ducklings," she said gently, "I've been waiting for you to talk to me about this. I always knew you were hurting, but I wanted you to come to me when you were ready." "Why didn't you just tell us we're not ugly?" asked another duckling, nibbling at the grass nervously. Mother Duck smiled. "I've told you with every hug, every story, every meal, and every quiet moment under the stars. But now, I'll tell you with words too, clear and true. You are not ugly. You are growing. You are discovering who you are. And that takes time, just like it takes time for a seed to grow into a strong tree." The ducklings sat up a little straighter. For the first time, they felt truly heard. From that day on, Mother Duck started something new. Talking time. Every evening after dinner, she would gather her ducklings in a cozy circle under the willow tree. There, each duckling could share something, a feeling, a question, a thought, or even just a funny moment. At first, some ducklings only said a word or two, but slowly their voices grew stronger. "I felt nervous at the pond today, but then I remembered your hug, Mama, and I felt brave again. I tried to talk to the baby piglet. He didn't laugh. He smiled. I saw my reflection. I don't look like the others, but maybe that's not bad." Mother Duck listened to every word with her full heart. She never rushed them. She never judged. She only listened and loved. Talking time became their favorite moment of the day. The ducklings began to ask questions about the world. "Why do swans look so fancy? Do clouds feel heavy? Will I ever fly?" Mother Duck answered every question honestly. "Swans are beautiful, yes, but so are you. Swans don't get to be you. Clouds carry rain, but they also carry dreams. And yes, someday you will fly, in your own way, in your own time." These gentle conversations filled the ducklings with confidence. They started talking to one another more, too. When one duckling felt shy, another said, "Remember what Mama told us? We are growing, and that is enough." When one duckling fell while walking, another helped him up and said, "You're not alone." As the days passed, The ducklings' chatter filled the pond with laughter. They quacked about their adventures, planned new games, and even told Mother Duck silly jokes. One morning, the ducklings woke up before sunrise and whispered to each other, "Let's surprise Mama." They waddled around gathering wild flowers, round pebbles, and smooth feathers. They placed them in a circle by the willow tree and waited. When Mother Duck arrived, they quacked loudly. "Surprise!" They had made her a thank-you nest, a little spot filled with everything she loved. Mother Duck's eyes shined with tears again, but this time they were happy ones. "Why did you do this?" she asked, overwhelmed. "Because now we know how to talk about love," Pip said proudly, "and joy, and fear, and dreams, and thanks." Mother Duck sat in the nest, surrounded by her ducklings, her heart bursting with pride. As time passed, the ducklings grew stronger, not just in body, but in heart. They never forgot what it felt like to be misunderstood. But because they learned to speak their truth, to share their pain and joy, they grew into compassionate and wise young ducks. One by one, their feathers began to change. Gray turned to soft white. Clumsy waddles turned to graceful steps. They were no longer ugly ducklings, but beautiful in their own way, confident, caring, and kind. Even when other animals looked at them with surprise and admiration, the ducklings, now young swans, smiled and said, "We were always beautiful. We just needed time to see it ourselves." And every night, no matter how far they had traveled, they returned to the willow tree with their mother. They still had talking time, even as grown birds, because they knew true beauty grows from love, honesty, and the courage to speak from the heart. As the days turned into weeks, talking time became more than a nightly tradition. It became the heart of the family. It wasn't just about feelings anymore. It became a place where dreams were shared, ideas were born, and laughter flowed like the gentle pond water under the moonlight. One evening, as the ducklings snuggled beside their mother under the willow tree, a gentle breeze blew across the pond. The leaves rustled like they were whispering secrets. Mother Duck smiled and asked, "What's something you're proud of today?" The second youngest duckling, Nib, raised his beak. "I helped a butterfly who was stuck in the mud. I didn't know butterflies couldn't walk well. I used a leaf to help it fly again." All the ducklings clapped their wings gently. "That's so kind, Nib." Then Pip added, "I'm proud that I talked to the old goose who always scowls. I thought he'd yell at me, but he just asked if I wanted to sit beside him." We watched the water in silence. "I think maybe he's lonely." Mother Duck nodded. Kindness grows when we listen, even without words. As the ducklings shared, they began to realize something. When they spoke kindly to themselves and each other, the world around them started to change too. Other animals on the farm noticed. A squirrel who used to tease the ducklings watched them from a distance. One morning, he came up to Pip and asked, "How do you talk so nicely to your brothers and sisters?" Pip paused, then said, "We practice. We had to learn to stop being scared of our own voices first." "Can I learn too?" the squirrel asked. "Of course," Pip smiled. "Join our talking time tonight." That night, for the first time, there was a guest at the willow tree. The ducklings made room for him, and Mother Duck gave him a warm nod. "Everyone has a voice," she said, "and every voice deserves to be heard." The squirrel shared a memory about how his older brothers used to talk over him. "I started yelling just so someone would listen," he said, his voice small. "But now I think maybe listening is the best part." The ducklings listened carefully. Then one of them said, "We're glad you're here." More animals began to come, a shy hedgehog, a pair of twin bunnies who only talked to each other, a little mole who stuttered. At first, they just listened, but slowly they began to speak. Mother Duck watched with wonder. Her little ducklings were no longer just learning. They were teaching. And not just words. They were showing others how to be patient, how to care, how to truly connect, One day, Nib turned to Mother Duck and asked, "Mama, what made you such a good listener?" Mother Duck thought for a moment. "When I was young," she said, "I didn't always feel heard either. So I promised myself that when I became a mother, I would make space for every voice, even when it was quiet, even when it was messy, even when it was hard." The ducklings leaned in closer. They hadn't heard this story before. "I used to sit by the pond alone," she continued, "and whisper to the wind. I imagined someone listening, and one day I realized I could become the one who listened." Her voice grew gentle. "So I did. And I listened to each of you from the moment you first quacked. Your voices are my favorite sound." The ducklings' eyes filled with warmth. They knew, in their hearts, that their mother's love was the root of their strength. As summer turned into autumn, the trees around the pond blushed with golden leaves. The family began helping other animals create their own talking times. They built soft circles with moss and feathers where animals could gather and share stories. They painted smooth rocks with kind words like brave, honest, hope, and friend. Soon, every corner of the farm had a talking circle. The bunnies made one near the carrot patch. The squirrels gathered under the tall oak tree. Even the shy frogs built a floating lily pad circle on the far side of the pond. One afternoon, a proud peacock from another meadow came visiting. He watched the ducklings talking together, smiling, listening, nodding. "This is unusual," he said. "Back home, no one talks unless they have something perfect to say." Mother Duck chuckled. "Perfection isn't the goal here. Connection is." The peacock raised a fancy eyebrow. "Even if someone stumbles or mumbles?" "Especially then," said Pip. "That's when we listen the most." The peacock sat in silence, watching. At sunset, he quietly joined their circle and whispered, "I'm nervous. I've never said anything that wasn't rehearsed." Mother Duck gave a warm smile. "Then start with something true. Just one feeling." The peacock thought for a moment and said, "Lonely." No one laughed, no one gasped. They just listened, and slowly the peacock began to smile for the first time in years. The ducklings, now growing into elegant young swans, began traveling to nearby farms and ponds, helping other animal families rediscover the joy of talking. They didn't need fancy words. They brought patience, open hearts, and the lessons their mother had taught them. Back home, the willow tree stood tall, now decorated with colorful ribbons and feathers from animals who had come and shared their voices. One night, as the moonlight glowed on the pond, the ducklings, now young swans, sat with their mother once again. "You've grown so much," Mother Duck said, looking around at her children. "But we still need talking time," Pip said. "Even now." "And we always will," said Nib, "because no matter how much we grow, there's always something to say, and someone who needs to hear it." Mother Duck's eyes twinkled. "Then let's keep talking, keep listening, keep loving." And so, under the stars, the family continued their tradition. Their hearts stayed open, their voices stayed strong, and their story, once about ugly ducklings, became a story of healing, love, and the power of simple, happy conversations. As time passed, the ducklings, now graceful young swans, felt a gentle pull in their hearts. It wasn't a pull away from home, but a quiet invitation from the world beyond the willow tree. They still loved their pond and their mother dearly, but they began to wonder, what if others out there feel like we used to feel alone, unsure, and unheard? One early morning, Pip looked out over the misty water and whispered, "Mama, do you think the animals in the next valley need a talking time too?" Mother Duck smiled gently. "My dear, there are hearts everywhere waiting to be heard. If you feel called to help, then go, with love and courage." So the swans packed their favorite feathers, soft blankets, and their smoothest storytelling stones. Before they left, they planted a new willow tree beside the pond, promising their mother they'd return often. Their journey began with a quiet river that curved through a forest. At first, the animals they met were shy and unsure. A young badger asked, "What are you doing here?" "We're here to listen," Pip said. "To what?" The badger frowned. "To whatever your heart wants to say," Nib replied. The badger blinked. No one had ever asked him what his heart wanted to say. He sat down, confused, but curious. "Well, I guess I'm tired. Everyone thinks I'm tough, but sometimes I just want a nap." The swans smiled. "That's a good place to begin." Word spread, more animals came, sleepy owl, a jittery fox, even a quiet little turtle. They all joined the forest circle. Some came to speak, others came just to listen. Over time, the forest changed. Arguments became conversations. Silence became comfort, not fear. Even the trees seemed to listen. In every new place, the swans left behind a circle of stones and feathers, a small sign that said, "Every voice matters. Speak softly. Listen deeply." In the meadow beyond the forest, the swans met a family of deer. The fawns argued often, stomping their hooves and shouting. The mother deer looked tired and helpless. "We used to fight too," Nib said kindly. "Not with hooves, but with silence." "How did you stop?" asked one of the fawns. "We started talking time," Pip explained. "At first, we just shared one feeling a day. Happy, sad, excited, worried. Soon, we started to understand each other." The deer family gave it a try. They stood in a quiet ring of wildflowers and took turns. At first, their words came in snorts and stomps, but slowly, they softened. "I miss Papa," said the smallest fawn. "I didn't know that," the older one whispered. Their mother's eyes glistened. "Thank you for helping us find our way back to each other." The swans stayed for a few days, teaching the meadow animals how to host their own talking circles. Then they moved on again, always leaving behind kindness, always learning more. In the snowy mountains they met animals who had forgotten how to speak from the heart. The wolves growled, the goats shouted, the bears barely spoke at all. One night the swans sat quietly near a frozen stream. They lit a small fire and sang a soft lullaby their mother used to hum. The next night a mountain hare crept close. The night after that a baby goat joined. By the end of the week even a grumpy bear sat down beside them. "I don't know how to talk without roaring," he admitted. Pip smiled. "Start with a whisper." And so he did. The talking time spread like warm light in winter. Slowly, even the wolves shared stories of lonely nights and dreams of belonging. The mountain air, once filled with echoes of anger, now hummed with calm voices and peaceful silence. Back at the pond, Mother Duck received messages from travelers passing through. "Your swans were here. They helped my son talk for the first time in months. I watched them turn a fight into a friendship. My little one now asks for listening time every night." Mother Duck sat beneath the willow tree, smiling with a heart full of pride. Her ducklings were no longer just her children. They were messengers of hope. One spring morning the swans returned home. They flew in with grace and joy, landing gently by the willow tree they had planted before they left. Mother Duck, older now but just as loving, came to greet them. She looked at them with wide, glistening eyes. "You kept your promise," she said. "And we brought stories," Pip replied. That night, the pond was filled with animals from near and far. The swans told tales of forest healing, of mountaintop whispers and meadow dreams. But then Pip stood and said, "There's still something more we need to do." "What is it?" asked Nib. "We need to write down what we've learned, so that even those we don't meet can start their own talking times." So the family created a book, the Talking Time Guide. It included how to start a safe circle, how to listen with your heart, simple ways to share feelings, questions to help others open up, kind words in many animal languages. The book was passed from paw to paw, claw to claw, hoof to hoof. Soon, animals in distant valleys, deep jungles, and far deserts began their own talking times. The world slowly changed, not all at once, but gently, kindly. And in the heart of it all was a little pond, a mother duck, and her 7 ducklings, who had once been called Ugly. They had learned to talk, to listen, to love. And now they had taught the world to do the same. At the end of every day, no matter how far they traveled, the swans always returned home for one special thing: talking time with their mother. Because even heroes, even peacemakers, even graceful swans need a place where their hearts can rest and be heard. And under the glowing stars, their voices rose in laughter and warmth, carrying love across the rippling pond. Forever and ever. The end of Episode 4.